And welcome back to another episode of JP and the Beans Talk.
You bet. The energy is, well, I like to say it's great, but it's seasonal. What's a good seasonal energy? It's let's
Cold.
see. It's crisp.
Snow.
Yeah, it's cold. There's
Winter.
snow. It's winter.
Snowboarding.
Yeah, I'm hearing jingle bells. It's great.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we're straight up kringling it here, yo.
Shredding powder.
We're coming up on the Christmas season. The energy's great in the gym. We're back.
It's
great to be here.
Yes.
Coming up on the end of the year.
We had
It's
a week
wild.
off, and now we're back, and then we're going to have another week off.
Yep.
Christmas and Thanksgiving,
Tell you what, we celebrate right.
we're enjoying it, yes.
We do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, there we go.
It's okay. Yeah. So programming note, a little bit of a longer gap here between these, the most recent pod and the next pod. We're still going to churn them out for you. But of course, we got to eat our share of figgy pudding. And I don't even know what figgy pudding is. Probably don't want to know. No, not when there's, turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy involved. That's my thing. Like these abstract holiday foods, that's fine.
Right.
But the stomach is a limited vessel,
Mhm.
right? And so why would I subtract from valuable stomach space of something that I know is great for something that's an absolute wild card that at its best is simply going to match what I already know is great? It's not going to exceed it. I'm not going to find a new favorite Thanksgiving food. I'm sticking with the old reliables and the old faithfuls because though they may be aged and known, they are magnificent.
Correct.
Yeah.
Stuffing on stuffing on stuffing.
Oh,
I ate a lot of stuffing
hey,
over Thanksgiving.
good for you. Good for you.
It was great.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Well, we're excited to be here. Programming note number 2, we are actually going to spend the majority of this particular pod recapping the year that was 2024. And yes, we are aware there is still a little flick known as Kraven the Hunter out there to be absorbed.
But
so
let's be real. It wasn't making the list.
probably not.
No, it's not making the list.
Carrying like a little Christmas candle for it
No,
to be
burn
good.
it.
I am. No, I'm not burning. Well, that's what you do with the candle.
Oh, sorry.
So you do burn it.
Piss on it. Is that better?
What a tough end for the candle.
Sorry.
What a tough end. I'm just saying there's a notable flick that we will recap, but we will wait a few weeks from now for the next pod to touch on that particular film. As it is, since we're just one film short, we figured, hey, let's dive in. We'd rather do it now than later. It's as good a time as any. So that'll be where we spend the bulk of our time today. Before we get into that, we will have another phenomenal segment of One Thing You'd Change. We'll get into those candidates. Spoiler alert, they're both green. We'll have some overall takeaways from the year that was 2024. We'll do another comic recommendation of the pod. I'll give my little point of view, spiel. It'll be brief, and we'll hear another Beans beef. Spoiler on that. It won't be much of a beef in the negative sense. We're taking a trip to Positive Town today, folks.
That's rare.
It is rare.
It's
so we
rare.
got to dive into it. And of course, we will have another classic JP and the Beans top 5 for you good people. So without further ado, let's get into it. And by get into it, I mean, let's start with Beans. One thing you'd change. Our 2 candidates for today's debate are the Incredible Hulk from the Marvel side, and from the DC side, our boy, Martian Manhunter.
He is the GOAT of this pod.
There is no doubt.
He's our favorite.
We carry not just a candle, but a friggin' torch for our gouts. His fire isn't his friend.
I might say it's a pillar of fire. I feel like a volcano almost.
There is no doubt.
Yes.
There is no doubt.
Mhm.
Yep. But Beans, let's start with Hulk. You go first. What is one thing you change about the Jade Giant?
Okay. So what I would change personally about the Hulk, I'm honestly tired of seeing the he's a monster kind of a vibe, right?
Okay.
So
We're going cuddly?
not cuddly, but I want to see him go almost on redemptive arc is generous probably because
Okay.
but I would like to see him really get into the hero aspect.
Yep.
Because lately he's
Yep.
kind of been this anti-hero. Like, is he good? Is he bad?
He just can't get out of that bad
Right.
branding, can he?
So I'd like to see him actually like be a force for good.
Right.
Like making like people be like, oh, it's the Hulk. Yes, he's angry, but it's for us and it's for our safety purposes, right?
Right.
And let's give Bruce a break.
Mm.
That dude it's rough for Bruce Banner. Quite a bit,
When
right?
was the last time that it wasn't? I mean, he's just had a run of roughness. Like, there's never been a reprieve for Mr. Banner. It's always been extraordinarily tough. Like we've talked about Peter Parker being a tragic character. Bruce Banner says, hold my spectacles.
Yes, 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Probably, for sure. But for him, I would like to see him go on this redemptive arc as well.
Yep.
He's such a smart guy.
Yep.
See him get into the gamma field again, maybe make some strides in that.
Right.
We've talked about Peter having Parker Industries and being rich at some point.
Sure.
Why not have Banner, like labs or whatever you want to do?
Absolutely.
See him actually do good in the world. Maybe with the gamma radiation, he figures out how to make a battery that is able to power big cities just one time,
Right.
For example, off the top of my head. But
Good
I
luck
would
with
like
that,
to see him actually go on this rise where instead of being viewed as Godzilla
right.
or King Kong, he's actually viewed as a, oh my gosh, it's the Hulk, he's here.
He's objectively a force for good.
Right. And I also don't need the Professor Hulk vibes for this.
That's neutered Hulk.
Right.
We all know that.
I want legitimate Hulk.
Yep.
Because I think that would be such a satisfying thing to watch this character realize, like, oh, people are starting to see me as a hero.
Right.
So
right.
That's my thing with the Hulk. Because we've seen so many bad things, and he's been betrayed by his friends, and, with like World War Hulk. And
like every trope, it just gets old after a while. And so we need something fresh. We need something different.
He always ends up being the bad guy at some point. Yeah. Like, he's a true anti-hero. And I just...
Yeah.
I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah. And what would be so refreshing is not only a new perspective and a new just feel for the character, but now when you come back, there's always the anti-hero paradigm that you can come back to. And now when you come back to it, guess what happens? Now it's been refreshed because you've done something different other than what is known and familiar. So now you're just giving him another path to go down as a character instead of saying, no, you're stuck in this very rigid way of being. And it is wearisome. So I like that a lot. Okay, great take. Here's my take, because I was thinking about the mechanics of the Hulk, right? Pretty basic. He gets angry, he smashes. And what I would like to see with the Hulk is that when Bruce Banner initially transforms into Hulk mode, I would like that Hulk version to be extremely vulnerable. Okay. So right now it's too easy. He gets pissed. He turns green. He's invincible. I would like it to be harder. He gets pissed. He turns green, but he's pretty weak. He's pretty vulnerable at this point. He can smash, but now there's an actual challenge factor where his opponents know, hey, get him early. Get him down early. It's like a football team with a good running game. You stuff the running back right at the line of scrimmage. He can't get his motor going. It's like trying to take care of Derrick Henry. It's like, hey, if he gets 3 yards and he hasn't had a hand laid on him, you're in trouble. He's trucking you. But if you can get to him right at the line of scrimmage, now you get a chance. I would like to see that with the Hulk, where his enemies and opponents know, hey, he's at his weakest. He's at his most legitimately vulnerable early. You can actually knock him out. You can actually take him down. With the caveat being, of course, that every hit that doesn't take him down only serves to make him stronger. That's not particularly new, but I would like to see that actually explored instead of it just being an automatic, oh, there's the Hulk, and good luck, except there is no luck on your side. You're all screwed. That's my take.
It's an interesting thought.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of him going up against, like, Juggernaut.
Right.
And I think Juggernaut wins that fight then every time.
That's why the Banner part has to come into play. He's got to be a little more clever. He's got to be a little more intentional. He can't just run in head first and go, I win. It's like, you got to be a little more savvy. I'd like to see that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
okay.
Chew on that. That's my take on the Hulk. All right. Moving on to our other green friend, Martian Manhunter. All right. Now, you said...
We have a lot of paths to go, I feel like.
We do. You said something about the Hulk that I'm going to kind of branch off of here. You would like to see the Hulk no longer be an anti-hero. I would love to see the Martian Manhunter be an anti-hero.
Oh, that is an interesting thought process. Okay.
Villainous turn here. Now, not hardcore heel turn, but here's the thing. With his power set, if you take just 2 seconds and think, let's see, what can the guy do? It's actually extraordinary and frankly should be unstoppable. He is physically imposing. His one weakness is fire. legit weakness. Got to be wary of that. But he has the ability to transform his physical, not just appearance, but actually, like in a comic that I just recently read, Scott Snyder, Justice League, Martian Manhunter, just at the snap of a finger goes, all right, well, I'm going to turn into a freaking dragon. He did. And now he has, dragon physiology. That's pretty freaking sweet. Don't ask me how the fire breathing thing works. I'm not sure. But nonetheless, he's dragon-sized, okay?
Can we just agree?
With wings, it's awesome.
The fire thing is dumb.
It is dumb.
Now, I've heard that
it's a psychological thing,
right.
too.
That's still a thing,
it's
right?
Just
they
a
didn't
psychological
retcon it again?
Right. It's not an actual, hey, you flick a lighter around Eminem and he just goes, I surrender. I'm out. So, no, it's truly just psychological. But he can shoot the same, I'm saying the same powerful red laser beams out of his eyes. He has psychic abilities, so he can get into your mind and flat out control it. He can also communicate with anybody that he is psychically linked to. I mean, this power set is unbelievable. So shouldn't it be, here's my thought, with this sheer level of power, listen, I think he should be more tempted by his potential for control, because he could be nigh unstoppable if he desired to be. Now, what's always endeared us, of course, to the character of Martian Manhunter is that he has made mankind his best friend. He's decided to care for us, and we appreciate that about him. But I think it would be fascinating to see him just veer a little bit over to the anti-hero side and go, well, what if I just, took more control here? It's a little less altruistic, a little more looking out for number one. Now, of course, it's not where I want him to live forever, but I think dipping into that pool would be fascinating to see from the character.
I also, in his defense too, I can see him being a character that would come to the logical conclusion of killing this guy is going to be more beneficial for all involved than letting him live.
And think of how, sneakily he could do that, all right? Consider Purple Man in the Jessica Jones series. You don't have to pull the trigger. You just have to psychically tell the person, hey, climb up to the top of the building, go ahead and walk right off. No one's the wiser. I mean, just think of how, sneaky that is and could be.
And he could probably, and this is really dark too, but he could probably lobotomize some people as well. So, I mean, even if you're not dead, you probably would want to be in that point. So,
and I think what pushes it over the edge for me, okay, because you could make the argument, and this is valid, well, then why doesn't Superman go evil? Great question. I think one of the key demarcations between Clark Kent and J'onn J'onzz is John's green. He is a Martian. He looks like a Martian. Now, can he change his physiology and blend in with humanity if he wanted to? Sure, but it's fundamentally different changing your entire appearance than it is Clark going glasses, tussle up the hair. Okay, now I'm no longer Superman. So the Kryptonian looks like a human being. The Martian does not. So that degree of separation between Martian Manhunter and all of the rest of us is very real. So I just think he has that natural disconnect where he's already such a tangible outsider that it's why not take over?
Agreed.
Have a little fun.
So 100% agreed.
So that's my take on Martian Manhunter.
Okay, for me, give the man a solo run. I'm going to keep it really simple.
Yes.
I'm going to keep it really, really simple.
Yep.
Let him cook. Let him go.
Mm-hmm.
Give him a rogues gallery that he can work with.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Line up more than one villain. All right? Have this guy fight other aliens. By the way, not white Martians. Okay? That's all he fights.
It's every time.
It's literally white Martians and then whoever else the Justice League is going up against. Right? That's it. That's it.
Give him something new.
White Martians, that's me. Nothing different. Okay? I'm tired of it. So here's the other thing. That man is a detective, so he's smart as well, too, right? So, and he's just fighting that constant battle. I need other things, right? So, yes, give him other aliens to fight. Maybe he fights Mongol. Maybe he fights, Doomsday. That'd be an interesting matchup, right? I think Lex Luthor would be a really good fit for him.
Correct.
Obviously, Lex needs to stay with Superman for the main part,
Sure.
but if Lex doesn't like aliens,
Mm-hmm.
in his logical brain, because I believe he is the smartest character in DC, am I correct?
Correct.
How is that man not like, oh, Superman's a threat, but so's that guy?
I'm not really worried about that one. You think you would be?
So's the green guy. What should we do about that? Because whatever I can come up with to cook Superman with,
Yeah.
Dear Lord, think about what we could do to Manhunter.
Also, I love that take. Absolutely love it. He is a character that is ripe for a solo run for numerous reasons. And the most important being, of course, he's a terrific character whose backstory just creates intrigue and a level of engagement. Like he's an easy character to connect with. He's sympathetic. Along with that, from a recruiting perspective, help me understand. If you are the Guardians of the Universe and you have a galactic space force called the Green Lantern Corps.
Does he need it though?
And you're going, no, he doesn't need them, but boy, could they use him. They're going, Guy Gardner.
It's fair. It's a fair point.
It's kind of silly. It's like, let's see, guy accustomed to the galaxy, can handle all kinds of environments, uniquely gifted, and then you slide the green ring on his finger. He's already green. Come on. And the Guardians of Oa deserve to get their butts kicked. That's my point there.
And here's a thing that I think in 2024, everybody be like, oh my gosh, this would be really cool if we did this, blah, blah, blah. What if like the first 5 issues is him dealing with his fire trauma?
Sure.
And then towards the end of that, it's gone.
We love trauma in our superhero shows and movies.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
And then he just tanks everybody because there's no lock.
He's a detective. So how can he not be a space cop? Like, he's just traveling around the galaxy. I'm kidding and also serious about the Green Lantern thing, but don't actually make him a Green Lantern.
No.
But he can obviously have natural interaction and overlap with the Green Lanterns as they're trying to solve because they are space cops. They're a galactic peacekeeping force. So I'm sorry, you're telling me that that's not a trope that is the gift that keeps on giving, the off the beat detective clashing with the by the book police force? Come on.
Odd question. Can he breathe in space?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The dude is a unit.
Have him go back.
Dude's a unit.
Has he ever gone back to Mars and explored that idea? That
never goes well.
Okay, that does happen.
Wins.
Okay,
wins
so
every time.
Get away from Mars then.
Right.
Okay, so Mars, Earth.
Yeah.
Like Justice League space. They don't have a space division.
Yeah. Here's what's really sad. When the New 52, a decade or so ago, came into fruition, they tried to do a Martian Manhunter solo run, and they did it so poorly. So poorly. They essentially moon knighted him where he had alternative personalities. And it's like, that's never been part of the character, and nor should it be.
It's not appealing.
It's wild. At some point in our lifetime, someone is going to tap into that previously.
It's going to have to be us.
Untapped. Well, maybe so.
I think it'll have to be us.
Aren't we actually? Yeah. All right, let's wrap and get to it. But
so that's mine.
A great take.
Yes,
I love it.
There we go.
There you go. That's one thing that we would change about Hulk and Martian Manhunter.
I feel like we have to talk about Manhunter at least every once in 5 to 10 pods.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah,
it's just
you gotta keep the fuel on the fire.
It's an ongoing thing.
I love it. It's
a
recurring thing, and it's one of the best.
It will be that way until somebody does something with it, and it's gonna be. Well, they are doing a new solo series for him actually with Absolute and that Absolute comics that they're running right now. I think they're doing a Martian Manhunter solo run, so that might be something.
Oh, that's where all spare dollars are gonna go.
It's not regular Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
Anyways,
they gotta do better. Either
way.
Okay,
go ahead.
Wonderful things. All right. With the Martian Manhunter topic, I'm going to veer a little off course here and provide the comic recommendation of the pod. My recommendation comes from Justice League issues 55 through 58. This is a storyline titled Terror Incognita, penned by one Mark Waid. And this is pre-New 52 Justice League. So this is the OG Justice League storyline. And it's a terrible title. Like Terror Incognita, it's kind of whatever. It is, however, a phenomenal Martian Manhunter story. Now, yes, alas, the white Martians are, once again, the primary villain. But what makes it such a phenomenal Martian Manhunter story is that there is a tremendous interaction between Batman and Martian Manhunter, where Martian Manhunter is put on the spot by Batman saying, I want you to apologize for thinking that you were ever alone. He said, John, you are part of us. You are part of our family. You are never alone. It's just really a heartwarming moment. And I'm obviously skipping right to the kill shot here, but it is a great examination of how challenging it is for Martian Manhunter as a character to feel connected to humanity, even to those that he should have the most connection with, his fellow heroes, those that he goes toe to toe with on a regular basis. And yet he still feels this unending sense of loss and of disconnect. So it's a great story.
Coming from Batman is beautiful, by the way.
It is.
The guy who has no emotions.
Who created his character, his persona, because I'm alone.
Right. And B, if you think about it too, he is the only pure human, no superpowers. So it's coming from that place as well, where it's like, oh, this is
the most grounded of all those great heroes. Yeah.
Poetic.
It is. So it's a throwback. It probably, I haven't looked at the publication date. We're probably talking like mid 2000s, early 2000s. But
it's Mark Waid.
Waid.
He's a fantastic writer.
Mark Waid's been cranking out gems for decades across all kinds of characters as well. That's another thing I should say. If you're looking for, hey, an author that is consistently putting out phenomenal content regardless of group or character, like he's had phenomenal Daredevil content just right off the top of the dome. He's been
World's Finest that I've been reading.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. He's been doing this for a long time and doing it well.
I think he's doing Justice League currently.
Probably right.
I think.
Yep.
And
yeah. So
he's
anyway,
good.
Mark Waid, pretty safe bet that if you pick up one of his works, you're going to enjoy yourself. So there you go. There's today's comic recommendation of the pod. All right. Let's get into the meat of the episode, our 2024 recap. Now, as you, dear sweet listeners of the pod, may recall, we have for a while now been forecasting this year as a bit of a bummer. And I think to spoil things, it's going to have delivered on that. Now, we're not going to live and dwell in negative town, because why would we talk about just negative things? Why would you listen? No idea. We are going to take an honest look at the year 2024, what lessons can be learned and applied moving forward. So let's just dive into it. So by way of rapid recap, chronologically speaking, here were the movies and shows that we would have touched on at some point over the course of this year. Doesn't mean we saw all of them. Okay, looking at you, Madam Webb.
Yes, I will say cool or lame before you pass it on to the next one. So
I love it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Kicking off the new year was Echo releasing all 5 episodes January 9th. Cool.
That's an eh.
Is it an eh?
That's an eh. We're gonna go middle ground on
my
that
expectations. Yeah, my expectations were very low, as you know, and as we discussed, they were exceeded overall, not by leaps and bounds. It didn't quite stick the landing, but overall, the inclusion and incorporation of Kingpin was a real win, and Echo, the character as a whole, was portrayed, I thought, as effectively as she possibly could have been. So, a win and an eh.
It was an eh.
There you go. Madame Webb on Valentine's Day. There's no reason to have watched it. No reason. No reason. I will never watch that, nor should anyone have watched that. And as a matter of fact, almost no one did. So
except my mom and dad, who liked it.
Oh.
And therefore, their opinions do not matter.
Yep. Invalid immediately. Okay. Getting in the TV show side. Logan.
Cool. Haven't watched it yet, but it looks dope.
I watched it all the way through. Came out. The first episode dropped, February 27th. Last episode dropped April 23rd. The production value was absurd. Like, this was an extraordinarily well-made show. And listen, there is so much television that I haven't watched and never will watch in my lifetime.
Amen.
Okay. But big tip of the cap to FX and Hulu for partnering and just cranking out a gorgeous looking and sounding and as authentic as someone who's not Japanese, can imagine ancient Japanese culture being. It was certainly worth a watch. So there you go. Shogun. All right, back to the movie side. Dune, Part 2 on March 1st. This is a movie that I personally admire more than I enjoy, and yet with the passage of time, I'm going, I love the world of Dune. I love the book. I love the first movie. I find myself wanting to come back to the second movie and rewatch it. It looked, again, production value, incredible. I don't care for some of the ways in which it approached the source material as someone who has read and really enjoyed that. But I also am really appreciative of the fact that it chose to pivot hard away from the source material that has a 6-year-old toddler with the full cognitive ability and awareness of a grown adult, because that's freaking creepy.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you.
So that's really okay to miss that.
You know, this is a side note.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Timothy Chalamet was on College Game Day.
Yeah.
Did you see the memes that came with it?
Oh gosh,
or his picks?
No.
They did the same memes.
How tough was it for him?
He did really well.
He did well?
No, he did really well.
Really?
Everybody was saying Timothy knows ball, but it was so funny because they were doing the Dune memes where it's
oh my gosh, yes.
So the one that he got wrong. Yeah. So there was one where he got it wrong, and he's like, "Oh, he's just being humble." He got it wrong, so he wouldn't be perfect. Right. It was all that, and it was so funny. Anyways,
that's incredible. That is a gift I will have to.
I need to see if I can find it.
That's phenomenal. So good. X-Men 97, back in the TV show side of things, released March 20th and ran all the way through May 15th. I didn't see a single episode. Did you? You watched at least a good portion of it.
I haven't watched 97.
I
was watching 90s. I watched the most of the 90s, and then I need to get back in and finish it so I can watch 97. Yeah. I already know it's going to be good. I'm calling it cool.
It's a good concept, right? Cool. This is one that, hey, have we watched? No. But we support.
I hope I get Spidey 98 out of it from the 90s Spider-Man. I'd love a continuation of that series. So that's kind of why we're propping up X-Men 97 so we can get the Spider-Man sequel that we've been wanting.
I have no problems with that. No problems with that.
There we are with that.
I think that's great. All right, staying in TV show land, The Acolyte dropped its first episodes on June 4th and ran through July 16th.
Lame.
There's a reason it got canceled.
It's lame.
It was bad.
So lame.
It was very bad.
Bad.
And here's the deal. Production value. Poor. Did you have a story worth telling? No, you did not. Just a swing and a miss and mercifully DED dead. All right. Horizon.
Lame.
Part 1.
Lame.
June 28th. Here's the real crime here.
Fool
Kevin
on
Costner
you.
Could not have had a better chance.
Ha!
Totally.
Suck it.
Just hurt so much.
It should.
He couldn't have had a better chance in a year where there was almost nothing to compete with on the summer movie landscape. He had as clear of a runway as possible. Here's what it reminds me of. Truly, here's what it reminds me of. Did you ever watch the show The Last Man on Earth with Will Forte?
I saw the couple episodes, and then I kind of fell out of it because I'm like, this might not be for me.
If you're listening, just watch the first 2 seasons. That's all you need to watch, because after that, it just gets less good, to be quite frank. But the first 2 seasons, are some of the most hilarious television you'll ever see. It's incredible. Real quick, setting the context here. Apocalyptic wasteland. Will Forte is allegedly the last man on Earth. He's maybe the last man on Earth for an episode, and then he starts finding other survivors of this apocalypse that has wiped out most of humanity. And one of his buddies really wants to fly a plane. And Will Forte's character is like over the top, encouraging him, like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. They even find a flight simulator for this guy to practice on. So he practices. Eventually they find a real plane. They get him up in the air, and he's like, yeah, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. You're going to make it. He takes off. He gets just high enough so that when he plummets immediately back down to the earth and crashes, his plane blows up. He's dead. And then Will Forte's character goes, not ready yet. That's what's in my mind when I think of Horizon. It's like, you're going to do it. Think about it. There's no other planes in the sky. You've got nothing but yourself. You have every opportunity in the world to pull this off, and you just crash and explode and die. That is Horizon.
That's comedy.
Part 1. Quite tough. Moving on. Twisters came out on July 19th. I happened to see this one. Enjoyed it.
I'll say cool. I haven't seen it, but I heard it did wonders.
It was really solid. And listen, my guy Glenn Powell, just keep putting him in stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's a treat to watch.
And
he was great.
We had like a flashback to the 90s here in the last couple of years.
A little bit.
Another sequel that we didn't really need.
No.
But we got.
Didn't need what we got, and we were okay that it was there as well. The real ringer of the summer, not even close, Deadpool and Wolverine, a.k.a. Deadpool 3.
So cool.
July 26th.
So cool.
Mm-hmm.
The coolest.
It was phenomenal.
It was everything.
It was phenomenal. Undisputed champion. The Rings of Power, Season 2, dropped its first episode on August 29th and ran through October the 3rd.
I'll say cool for you.
Thank you.
It was for you.
It was phenomenal. Coming off of the harsh burn of Horizon, I needed something to heal that wound and fill that void.
Arm is a bitch.
It really is. It really is. This was a nice step up from Season 1. What has been released to the public is that the idea here is to run this show for 5 seasons. And I think this show desperately needed a strong Season 2 in order to have a Season 3, and it got it. So, big win. Agatha All Along dropped its first episode on September the 18th and ran through October 30th. Listen, overall, positive. Not my cup of tea, but if it's going to be made, make it well. Give us a reason, and they did it. And that's totally fair as well. I'm not begrudging anyone that has that posture toward me.
I'm glad we're on the same page.
No, totally fine. The Penguin, just one day later, September 19th, was its first episode. How about that? It wrapped up on November the 10th.
So cool.
Absolute banger. Absolute banger.
Yeah.
Incredible. Transformers 1 animated feature released one day later on September 20th. I went and took the kids to it. It was terrific.
For your kids, I will say cool.
Thank you.
I have not seen it. I'm glad it was good.
You would enjoy it if you watched it.
I'm still nervous.
Watch it and let that nervousness just dissipate away. Give yourself that gift.
Fair enough.
Give it to yourself. There you go. Joker, I'm not even going to pronounce the dang name. It's part 2. Joker
Folly
part 2.
a deuce. And a deuce it was.
A deuce it was. October 4th. Big miss.
Lame.
Big miss.
Lame.
Quite tough. Yep. We didn't see it, and you're right in Madame Web territory. Why would we? Venom: The Last Dance, October 25th. This was too bad. This was not surprising that it necessarily went this way, but this was a bummer.
It was a shot to the face. It was lame.
It hurt.
It hurt watching it all the way through.
There is no doubt.
And Craven's going to do the same thing to me. So, lame.
Open your heart up.
No.
Open your heart up.
No, it's shut. Really... They haven't given me a reason.
You're doing the wise thing here.
Yes.
Gladiator 2 came out on November 22nd. I happened to see this one. It was good.
I'll say it's cool.
It was good. Now, don't set your expectations high. Gladiator, the original, is always going to live in its hierarchy of greatness. That's right where it should be. This is not a sequel we needed to have, but if we're going to have it, make it worth our while. And I thought it was worth our while.
If life teaches you anything, have no expectations ever whatsoever.
It's the beauty of low expectations.
Yes. Well, it's not even low, just don't have them. Sure. Because, especially when it comes to movies, okay? Because there's people that go in there, they're like, have low expectations. Yep. And there's some people that have high expectations. I'm saying don't have expectations at all. Mm. Now, it's a really bummer thing to say, probably. Don't have any expectations. And then life will surprise you and you'll be like, oh my gosh. Don't expect things. Just let things happen. That's my advice. And then when they suck, make fun of it. And when it's good, prop it up. That's my advice. That's Life Beans advice right there. It doesn't happen very often.
Extra charge.
No, extra charge.
Your hourly rate is outstanding.
Subscribe.
Yep.
To my YouTube page. Our YouTube page. That's all it takes. And maybe life advice will pour out of beans later.
There you go.
In a non-weird way.
It was fun. What I'm hoping for is that Paul Mescal has an opportunity to shine in more, because he was really solid in this flick, and having not seen him in anything previously, and with it being a movie that is littered with predominantly, or at least led by, well-known names like Pedro Pascal and Denzel Washington and Connie Nielsen. It was great to have a new face where it's like, yeah, let's see more of this dude. So good start for him. And then, of course, as we mentioned at the top of the pod, Kraven the Hunter coming out here in just a few days on December 13th. That's really the only outstanding movie that we have yet to see before we'll officially close the book on 2024. The Skeleton Crew has kicked off on Disney Plus, but that won't wrap until after 2024, so we'll fold
Creatures Commandos is out as well.
Creature Commandos,
not Creatures Commando.
Again, that's kind of it's going to overlap.
I don't want to see the creatures go commando.
No, you don't. No, that's too far. So there's a little bit of overlap there. What If will come out later, so we get it. We're fudging here a little bit, but fudge away we shall, nonetheless. Yes. Okay, so 10,000 foot view here, and then we'll get down to the ground level. What takeaways do you have from the year that was, Beans?
I'm not going to lie to you. I will only remember this as the year of Deadpool and Wolverine. And
seems right.
In this year's defense, yes, there was bummers, but because of that movie, even if it was a good movie year all around,
sure,
I think that movie
that
alone
would still carry the day for you.
Correct.
No doubt.
Like, I think of 2023, because I believe that year also kind of sucked. Am I correct? Do you remember that correctly? Sucking, possibly? If I'm wrong, I will eat crow, but
I don't think we came away with any one particular banger.
No.
2020.
Maybe Guardians.
It was Guardians Volume 3, March of that year.
So we had, again, that's the year of Guardians.
Yep.
So there might have been one other decent movie as well that came out of that year. But
I'm sure there's one we're forgetting, one or two. But overall,
either way,
holistically, it was not.
It's a very forgettable year.
Yeah.
Very forgettable.
Yeah.
Okay. Deadpool
and Wolverine said it. Miss after miss after miss.
Correct. And they know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we go through the list, Echo, forgettable, right? X-Men 97 we talked about for a while. Acolyte, forgettable. Horizon, forgettable.
Right.
Rings of Power is going to be remembered as a whole.
It's got a chance. Yep.
Right.
It's still kind of in the TBD. That story is obviously not over, so there could go either direction. Could end up great. Could end up entirely forgettable.
Right. Agatha will disappear into the wilderness. Venom will also disappear into the wilderness.
Yeah.
So you got 2-3 solid things, and those 2 solid things are different things on their own.
Right.
So the Penguin, that's going to live as a show.
Yep.
That encapsulated the entire year for shows for me. So we had one major hit in each department, and the rest is kind of just but like I said, I don't think we would remember or care.
Yeah. To just flesh out the context a little bit. So we had a higher quantity in 2023 in terms of movies that fit this pod's area of interest. So we had Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Blue Beetle, Ant-Man and Wasp, Quantumania.
Geez, we did have more.
And the Marvels. But again, it to your point, and I think this still proves to be true, largely forgettable flicks.
Right.
Right? None of those are we going, wow, that was a building block towards something else, or that stood on its own merits as an outstanding. I'm going to come back to that movie once a year and rewatch it. They were all just forgettable. Neutral at best.
The only one I think about on that list is what I said earlier, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, it's just...
And it's the only one worth coming back to.
Correct. Yeah. And now we have Deadpool and Wolverine, and that was this year's Guardians.
Yep. Yeah, so it's been a 2-year run of subpar overall quality, and the quantity this year took a dip as well. I think what stood out for me going through this recap is how off the summer was.
Yeah.
It was an absolute desert, and thank goodness for Deadpool and Wolverine for being the prickly cactus of life in the midst of this desert, if I can just continue to abuse the metaphor. But it was outstanding, and in a certain respect, I think as the years pass, I'll be glad, or I'll choose to be glad that Deadpool and Wolverine was the one standout, because it kept it from getting either overwhelmed isn't the right word, but it kept attention solely on that movie,
right?
Which I think it was worth. It held up to that additional tension. So I think that's a great thing. But I can't remember a previous summer of movies where just the overall selection was so poor. I mean, I didn't mention we had a Mission Impossible movie in 2023, but there wasn't even that caliber of a movie. Again, Horizon had a chance where it's like, hey, here's your shot, here's your runway.
Probably
and it
Twisters.
just shot itself right in the foot. Twisters is the closest thing to it. Yep.
Well, off that, I mean, if you remember our top 5 summer movies of 2024, that is on our top 5 in the YouTube playlist. Anyways,
Yes.
shameless plug. We had nothing.
No.
We had nothing in that top 5. You're like, oh yeah, let's do this top 5, and then you did it, and it was terrible.
Of my behind.
I said SpongeBob was number 5, Jordan.
Yep.
Sandy Cheeks got a solo movie.
Mhm.
Guess what? I didn't even remember that at all until I rewatched that top 5 today.
Pretty sure I named at least 2 movies in that top 5 that I never saw.
I didn't see 4 of the movies. Well, 3 of the movies.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at there. But like, I think my biggest takeaway from all of it, right? Like looking at it from way far away and be like, oh, 2023, 2024.
Yep.
I think the drought's over.
Mhm.
I think 2025, I think is the start of a new beginning.
Yep.
And I think it's because of James Gunn.
Yep.
I think Superman kicking us off next year will really bring us back.
Yeah. Totally agree. I think there's a couple things going on here. For as bad as the summer was, the fall started an encouraging trend. We had Rings of Power, Agatha All Along, The Penguin Show, so some above average to great shows in there. And that's really encouraging to me because those shows take so much time when you're, sequencing episode after episode together to get right. And I also feel like this was the year where you just had to get out some of the backlogged crap that was still in the cooker. It's like we just got to put this out there, get it over with, so we can move on to other things. This had a real darkest before the dawn kind of energy to me, just to go along with what you were saying.
Well, yeah, because it was Marvel realized that they messed up. Deadpool and Wolverine proved that because they addressed it. They said, not all were great. You've been with us through all of it. Thank you for doing that. But yeah, we know that the quality
5 years and change has been
not great.
Correct.
So to have that be recognized and Marvel pull back and be like, okay, we're not going to release as much stuff this year. Let's get this stuff because we're so far down the pipeline with it anyways. Let's just get it out there. And DC's in the dark for good reasons.
Yep.
Because they are going to go through their reboot. James Gunn is going to take his time.
Yep.
We got Creature Commandos. Great, fantastic. I'm sure we will both love that show.
Yep.
I have very high hopes. We might need to watch Peacemaker as well. We might need to rip that Band-Aid off and watch Peacemaker. But we're going through the
there's an opportunity for healthy competition. I think the other thing that is happening is there is a consolidation of the streaming services and the sheer volume of content that they've been just tossing into the entertainment ether. I think there's a slow but steady constriction taking place where some of these entities are starting to absorb each other so that instead of this excessive volume of content, that still exists. That hasn't objectively changed, but I think it is starting to throttle back because those studios can't spend that much money forever. Like we've talked about, this has been an arms race, and every arms race comes to an end as those that decide, hey, we can't win this, start to instead partner up or ally with others. So I think that is another helpful just change of posture of these studios, which is, hey, we don't need to try and beat each other in terms of quantity. We need to churn out quality first and foremost. So instead of microwaving a Venom Last Dance, if we're going to make that movie, we've got to take our time. We've got to do the reshoots that we need to do. We need to delay it as much as it needs to be delayed, but it's got to be at least solid. We can't put out an absolute poop show when we've got this kind of independent property at our fingertips. It could make us an extraordinary amount of money if we just get it mostly right. It doesn't have to be perfect. The first Venom movie, far from perfect, but overall well received, made the money that it needed to make for there to be a second and third. than a movie. So there's interest. It was good enough. It wasn't perfect. I think that is helpful, and the healthy competition that a functional and has their poop together DC can provide for Marvel, where it's like, here's an additional motivator to get your poop in a group. If you don't, all those dollars that you've been enjoying are going to get siphoned over to your competitor. And so for us as the consumer and as the fan, this should end up being best case scenario where we're getting high caliber content out of both because they're both competing for our limited attention and dollars.
Well, and I think it also shows, I think by that, I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine, I think is the key indicator that superhero fatigue is not real. That's not the case. It's storytelling. 100%. We're getting stories that we don't care about, nor want, nor need, nor have had the proper build up to be like, I want to see that. It's not a thing. Superhero fatigue is not a thing. And just wait till next year. And when DC takes off and everybody's loving Superman again. Because I don't know a lot of little kids who are like, oh my gosh, Superman is the best ever. We might actually have that.
Yeah.
After that movie. So there you go. That's my cherry on the top of the cake, I guess.
And I think that's, I think you do. I think that's the biggest lesson to be learned and applied, which is have a story worth telling. And if you don't, just wait. Move on to the other story that's actually worth telling. Don't feel like, well, we got to get content out there. Take your time. Now, the irony here is that because of the strikes that took place earlier in this calendar year, it has inadvertently created a backlog that is going to unload in 2025. And in a future episode, we'll get into our forecast for 2025 and do our look ahead. But we're going to have another hilariously imbalance of a lot of content that has had to, big portion of that has had to be delayed and waited on because of those, frankly, necessary strikes to bring a better situation to the people that are behind these great works. So looking forward to seeing what's ahead. For as subpar as the bulk of content of 2023 and 2024 has been, I'm encouraged by the overall trajectory. Could we be proven wrong? Of course. Would it be the first time we'd be wrong? Yes. So just count on us being right. It happens almost every time.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm never wrong.
Never have been.
Never will be.
Don't you dare fact check us on that. Love that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a couple things before we get into our classic JP and the Beans top 5. I just want to throw a little bone out to Skeleton Crew, pun intended. Watched the first couple episodes with my kids because they dropped over this past week. Really enjoyed it. It's off to a good start. Star Wars has a real chance here to carve out a repeatable live action niche for the youths. This is definitely a kid's show, or at least let me rephrase it, kid oriented. All right. PG is right where they're living with this show. And I would not be upset if Star Wars goes, hey, let's keep pumping out this kind of live action content, not at the expense of great shows like Andor and The Mandalorian, but I think rather than The Acolyte, give me this.
Right.
Give me this. This is a good change of pace. It's an original story that has nothing to do with Skywalkers. I'm here for it. It's a lot of fun so far. I expect it'll continue to be. Now, moving on from that, Beans, normally we give you the opportunity to unload a little bit of what's bothering you with a beef. But on today's episode, we actually have a positive feedback from Beans on the newly released video game, Marvel Rivals.
Yes, Jordan insisted that I talk about it, so I guess I will take...
It's good for your channel some positive energy once in a while.
I'll take my 5 minutes.
Just once in a while.
I'll take my 5 minutes, and I'll hype this game up. First of all, the game is free. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you don't like it, just undownload it. Okay, but
is it PS5 exclusive?
No, it is PC, PS5, and Xbox. So yes, It is for the main consoles.
Okay.
They said that it will not come out for the Nintendo Switch, which made me laugh hysterically. So, and I love the Nintendo games, so don't hear me pooping on Nintendo. It is a 6v6 shooter. There are tanks, there are damage, and there are support characters. There is a for a game like this, the roster is really big to start off with.
I was impressed.
33 characters.
That's great.
And it is from all sorts of realms, right? They have
super diverse.
Right. They have your Iron Mans, they have your Captain Americas, but they also have your Cloak and Daggers, your Mantises, your
Adam Warlocks,
Jeff the Land Shark. So, which is, I'm assuming, going to be their mascot. Anyways, so it's, yes, you're going after payloads, you're going after points to conquer. And the characters, I mean, they did such a good job at staying true to who those characters are in Marvel. Mm-hmm. I think it is probably the most accurate representation in a game right now of what it would be like to have just superhero fights.
Sure.
Hawkeye feels like Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. Doctor Strange feels like Doctor Strange. Like, these characters don't feel out of place. You're not like, well, he doesn't do that in the comics. They are very true to those characters. The style and the artwork for all of it is phenomenal. They have their nods to their comic book and movie looks as well in there. So there's the customizable options for those of you who like the alternate skins. For instance, I got Scarlet Spider for Spider-Man just because it was free. It was Kane's Scarlet Spider, so not Ben Reilly. Just need to put that image in your head. They don't have the Ben Reilly one yet. But anywho, the game is great. I've enjoyed it. I am playing Hawkeye and Black Widow. I'm a sniper, believe it or not.
I love it.
Bang. So give it a whirl. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I think this game is going to last for a while. They will be continuing to add to the game, so it's not going to be a one and done kind of a thing. You're going to get new characters. They've shown leaks of Reed Richards, Johnny Storm. Yeah,
you said what, 32 or 33?
There's currently 33. I
mean, there's just an almost endless trove of characters to choose from.
Right, and Marvel has how many heroes and villains to choose from? Right. They've shown leaks of Blade, leaks of Cyclops, leaks of a bunch of other characters that will eventually probably make it to the game. They did a quiz, a poll, if you will, on who people want to be added next. Ghost Rider won that.
Sure.
So that would be really sick.
Blade would be a lot of fun.
Deadpool is obviously a high requested character that's not in there yet. So yes, if you want a game where you're like, it would be awesome to play as Spider-Man and wreck bad guys by doing flips and getting my spider sense and webbing people up. And, this is it. This is a game. I don't think it's going to get better than that. I really have high hopes that this game is going to stick around. And it'll take a lot for it to plummet. So there you go.
I like what you said there. It seems like it's got a wonderful opportunity to enjoy some genuine longevity. I mean, the brief, I haven't played the game. I was able to observe you playing it, which was really cool because the design of each character is so well done. It'd be so easy and even expected if the game gave every character kind of a generic baseline suit and with just a slight characteristic tweak to that suit, but they genuinely made sure that each character that they put out, all 33 of them have their own individual ripped straight out of the comic style with some tweaks, but it's that character. There's thoughtfulness behind it, what I'm trying to say. It was clearly made with care and attention to detail. And the fact that each character is so unique in how they play and their abilities, their deficiencies, that's glorious. I mean, that's just one of the joys of playing a superhero video game. We've talked about this before with the Arkham Batman games. It's just, there's something unique and special about feeling like you are Batman, using his utility belt, his various combat skills. The character of Spider-Man plays really well, of course, in video games. So to have a whole new set of characters with different, again, strengths, abilities, weaknesses, that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and I would say all the tweaks are to help improve, not to deter.
No, it's not a departure from any of those characters.
And another thing that's unique to this game compared to other ones, there are team up possibilities. So
Sure.
if you want your buddy to run Groot and you want to run Rocket, you can actually get on Groot's shoulder and shoot from Groot's shoulder.
Cool.
If you are Cloak and Dagger with Moon Knight can go invisible. So stuff like that, like nice little nods to it where you're like, oh yeah, Hulk can throw Wolverine at people. That's awesome.
Freaking sweet.
And that's ripped straight from the comics. I'm hoping if Colossus gets added, you can just, it would be perfect. Okay. So to have that in there, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what's stopping you from playing that game, trying it out. So that is my non-beef, my beans beauty, my beans.
We'll workshop it. I don't know.
My beans breakthrough.
No, really, really cool. Again, as a non-gamer,
brightness.
I think what they've done is pretty damn.
It's in the bag.
Impressive.
It's Bean's bag.
Pretty phenomenal. Oh my gosh,
Bean bag.
I'm just paging through as you're talking. I'm just paging through each character just to further observe the design. And
they have full breakdowns online.
It's
by the
really
way,
impressive.
Of what each thing does and the amount of damage it does or the amount of healing it does.
Yeah, each ability.
Oh my gosh, it's
of each
awesome.
character.
And that's the other thing too. It does a great job at redirecting to the source.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So if they do, for instance, the Scarlet Spider suit, guess what? It tells you exactly what issue that came from. So you can go to that issue and read it if you want to. Or
which we've talked about that with movie marketing. It's like, how are you not tying this directly into the comic source so that you're just from a pure business point of view, you're literally cashing in on the attention that you're drawing to the source material
instead of just using the name for the movie.
Civil War.
And then
is that based off?
And then getting, starting Civil War 2 at the time that Captain America Civil War comes out, you're like, that's not Civil War.
No.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
Right? So
that lack of synchronization. Yeah.
So no. And it's true to the character. They have all that. And so that's my tip of the cap.
I love it. Really well done. Good tip from your sweet beans. All right, let's get into another classic JP and the Beans top 5. As expected, these are our favorite movies and shows of 2024. Now, let's just agree right out of the gate. We're going to do this a little bit differently. Throw a curveball at you. We're going to go from 1 to 5. Okay. So we know what our freaking number 1 is. It's Deadpool and Wolverine.
I'm going to have to change that around.
And if it's not, then I guess,
Oh, my bad.
Deadpool
and Wolverine is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for me. No, you're right. We'll get one out of the way right now.
I mean, it just is, as it should be. We've opined on it endlessly, and we could continue and continue and continue. It's everything we want.
It's
great. Great action, great humor, great story, great characters.
It's perfect.
It is.
Honestly, it's perfect. Yeah. I don't have any critiques on that movie.
Yep.
I wish I would have cried out of joy. I did not.
I seriously haven't laughed that much from start to finish in a movie in I don't know how long.
Probably since the first one.
I
think it was Deadpool 1.
Truly
Honest
incredible.
to God. I think that was the first.
Yep.
And that was 8 years ago?
Yep.
Oh my God, that was 8 years ago.
Kind of wild.
Let's move forward.
Yeah. All right. My number 2, as we invert things here a little bit here. For me, my number 2 was Rings of Power Season 2. And again, to clarify, this is what I enjoyed the most. I'm not necessarily saying Season 2 of Rings of Power was the second best thing that you would have watched with your time in 2024, but it was my second most favorite thing to have watched in 2024. The level of detail increased. I think the showrunners did themselves a big favor by whittling down the various storylines because, my goodness, are there so many characters to follow. The dwarves are a real highlight. Love that. The dynamic, of course, between Sauron and Celebrimbor carries that show. It's magnificent stuff. Rings of Power. Season 2 is my number 2. Beans, your number 2.
My number 2 is the Penguin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We just talked about this, last pod? 2 pods ago? Last pod?
Yeah.
That show's so well done.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful gangster show. I would watch it again, which I don't like watching things twice sometimes, I'm just one of those guys. I watch it and
one and done,
then eventually down the line I'd watch it again.
I get that.
But like if I'm going to watch the Batman again, like once that trilogy's over, you have to watch the Penguin.
Right.
Like you have to go Batman, the Penguin, and then go into the other ones.
Yep.
Like it's not like for me, it's not just a spinoff that doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's like, oh, this is very essential to this franchise.
Right.
So for me, Penguin, definitely number 2.
Love that. Yeah. Your number 3, sir.
My number 3 is going to be a curveball for everyone because it's a documentary. I have a documentary on here.
Oh,
Mr. McMahon.
Come on.
Yes, I'm a WWE guy.
That's great. You got all the way through it, though?
No shame. Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
It's good.
It is not like a very happy watch. It's not, but I wouldn't say it's like sad either. It's like that. You get a lot of mixed emotions watching this.
Sure.
And
which I think is the mark of especially as it pertains to Vince McMahon, if you can say that about that documentary, you know that it's operating as objectively as a documentary can, where it's just trying to show you, the audience, here's what has happened, and allow you to decide how you're going to resolve all of the good, the bad, and everything in between. So the 2 episodes that I've gotten through so far, I would really resonate with your description.
And for me, and I think because Vince McMahon did not like this documentary towards the end, because he came out, he's like, I don't feel like this is an accurate representation of me. I think they nitpicked.
But it is.
I think personally they did a great job because to me, Vince McMahon has done a lot of good from what I can understand.
Yep.
He's also done a good amount of bad. I think if anything, you watch this show and what I came out of it with is that Vince McMahon got lost in the character to the point where his real life and the character naturally merged.
Yep.
And I don't think he did it on purpose.
Sure.
But I think for him, it got to the point where the lines were so blurred, he didn't know what was what anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because he did everything for the money.
Yep.
And what was good for the business.
Yep.
And again, did a lot of good for that, but also did not a lot of good things. Yeah. So, not defending McMahon at all for the bad, but I think you just have to watch that and acknowledge, like, oh, like, maybe there is some sympathetic part to this where you're like, you feel bad for the guy.
It's a phenomenal, like any good origin story, it's complex. When you start to unwrap how just about any whether it's sports franchise or team or player, like group, individual, what have you, there are complexities. Not all of it is going to be as pure as we would prefer or desire it to be. Doesn't justify it. Doesn't mean, well, the means do not necessarily justify the ends, of course. But I always think it's helpful to have an honest view of how we got to where we got to, how that was created, how it came to be. I would much rather have that than hey, let's try and dress this up. Let's try and, improve the optics of it and make the crappy thing look better than it was. Just present it as is and let me come to my own judgment, my own conclusion on how I want to respond to it. So, really well made documentary.
So that's my number 3.
That's a great pull for number 3. My number 3 was The Penguin. It was made so doggone well. And for me, the story was tremendous. It's hard to pick just one point of emphasis for that show. But where I'm going to go with what my takeaway as time passes for the Penguin show is going to be just the performances in that show. Colin Farrell deserves all of the praise that can be heaped upon him. Truly outstanding. Kristen Milioti, right there with him.
Already a good actress. To me, like, I think she this should establish her from moving forward as like, she's a beast.
Yeah.
100%.
Elite stuff. I don't think I watched anything in 2024 that, and listen, I'm no thespian. I'm not the expert, but for my money, that was where I saw the best performances in any movie or TV show was The Penguin. So that's my number 3. For me, the number 4 is Transformers 1. It was so much fun. So much fun. Unexpected. And the best thing or the highest endorsement that I can possibly give to it is I want to see more. I would like to see this become a franchise. Let's see more subsequent movies with this animation style, with that particular voice cast, along those lines of how it is that the Transformers come to be. I would love to see more of that. And I thought it struck a really, really solid balance of, yes, it's clearly for kids first, and it was still appealing for me as the adult to be in there and enjoy and watch the story unfold without it turning into a PC freaking Super Pets, where this is supposed to be a kids movie, but these are all adult jokes. What's going on? Which
is the key component for animated movies.
Yeah.
You want it to be for the kids, but yes, the parents are the ones that have to sit through the whole dang thing.
We got to pay for the attendance.
So it can't be too stupid, right?
Right. It's got to be intelligent enough.
Right.
There is no doubt. So that's my number 4, Transformers 1.
My number 4 is Kung Fu. That's funny. That might be the name of the pod. Anyways, Kung Fu Panda 4 is my number 4. Listen, is it the best movie that came out this year? Well, yes, because of what we got. So, but like,
had a chance.
Overall, with the Kung Fu Panda franchise, is it the best one? No. But it's also establishing second trilogy in its own right, as now Poe is making a transition in his life, like all of us do in our lives, as taking
Sensei.
up a role, as Sensei, training the next dragon warrior, and watching him go from being the mentee to now the mentor, and trying to struggle through that, as all mentors do. I think you and I both know that from a very deep level. So,
that's outstanding.
That is my number 4. And now my number 5, because it had to be on this list at some point, Echo. Look, is it on here because of Echo? Absolutely not. Okay, I don't care if I see her again. No offense to because the character's fine.
Yep.
The character's fine.
Yep.
If she shows up in Daredevil and has a small part in Daredevil, that is about the role that I want her to have.
Yep.
She can also show up in Moon Knight. Whatever. Great.
Right.
Kingpin was the highlight for this. We got Kingpin back finally, and not that little Hawkeye bull crap that we got.
That was pure nonsense.
That was
wasn't it? Boy,
super nonsense.
Was that not just a sign of what was to come?
Like
in retrospect, as soon as that happened, we should have been like, "Oh, farts!"
Right, exactly.
We're in for it. Not in a good way.
Does him getting his eye taken away from a gun and him just walking up and being fine? Does that make sense either? Of
course not. Comics.
Comics. No, it doesn't. But that did happen in the comics, so I will give him that. Mm-hmm. He did lose his eye for a little bit. Whatever. But it was such a great showing of Kingpin as a character. Yeah. And the difference between him, who pretends to care, and seeing family who actually does care. Right. And it was just brilliantly well done. It brought Kingpin back to the forefront, and now he's in the MCU at that point. You're like, oh, this is what he's going to do now? He's going to be the mayor? No, thank you. I'll pass. I don't want that, right? So now we are excited to see him again.
Yeah.
Because Vincent D'Onofrio, as we have said before in the past, that man will forever be Kingpin in my head. So there you go. That's my number 5.
I love it. My number 5 is going to be Shogun. This show, based on a book, single novel. Now I think it ended up being a trilogy, but the timeline of the trilogy gets a little wonky because it goes from 1600s feudal Japan to like 1800s and then 1900s. So it just jumps centuries or decades. And the show did so well that there is a season 2 in development, which I'm very excited for. And there should be, because again, when something is made with this much care and attention to detail, and there's that much of a story that is worth telling, give me more of that, not less. So if you haven't watched it yet, highly recommend. I'm not saying it's going to be the best thing you'll ever watch, but I am saying that you are going to watch it and be glad that you did. So Shogun is my number 5 for 2024.
Wow, that felt weird, but we did it.
Right? Love it. Of course, Craven still out there. Maybe it sneaks into the top
Nope,
5.
not gonna. I can tell you right now, it ain't gonna. Because if I come,
that safe is locked. That vault is shut.
I'm telling you right now, if I come on this podcast next episode and after our week off, and I say that movie is good,
won't that be wild? Won't that be wild?
It's gonna be a cold day in hell.
Beans, anything else that you want to hit on before we take the good people home?
No, I think that's it. Our YouTube page, Magic Beans Productions, go subscribe to that. And if you're on the YouTube page, the podcast is everywhere. It's not just on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on.
You can find it.
Apple. It's on the other ones. So all of them, anywhere where you can listen to things. Those are the top 2. Let's be real. Amazon, I think, has it. I don't know how many people do that anymore. Anyways, we're getting off track. All right. So just listen, share, subscribe, like,
all the
comment. I'm not going to respond to your comments because most of them aren't relevant. That actually sounds really bad. Go ahead and comment. Talk to us. It's great. I just can't promise you I'm going to say anything back.
Just make it relevant.
Yes. There you go. And don't be a dick. All right. There we go. I said my spiel. All right. So.
Thanks for listening.
On that note, Godspeed.
Peace.